Welcome back to Hypertrophy Academy. Today I'm going to give you 3 key tips that will so quickly improve your coaching systems and get your clients better results. We're going to touch on exercise selection, exercise execution, and exercise rotation. That's going to be looking at what we pick, how we do it, and when we change it. These things are integral to the coaching system, and if we misunderstand these things, we will literally just get worse results. And nobody wants that. Welcome back to Hypertrophy Academy. My name's Declan, and let's jump straight into exercise selection. So when we're picking exercises and when I'm mentoring people, I often ask them, why do we pick certain exercises? What is actually going into exercise selection? I have 5 key things. You can see them right here. And coaches often struggle to find the words to really bring to light what they're subconsciously thinking when looking at exercise selection. You guys watching would all know some exercises are better than others, but we may not be able to articulate this. And this is how I'm going to help you today, is I'm going to give you the tools that we use when we try to articulate this to our mentees. Because realistically with clients, you don't need to have 5 reasons why you've chosen an exercise. You just tell them. But if we're teaching this stuff, or if we're trying to educate clients or ourselves, then this is very, very helpful. So we have 5 categories. We have loadable, we have stable, we have practical, enjoyable, and of course, ideal resistance profile, or has an ideal resistance profile. Now, these things are very similar. Some of those words sound similar. They are similar in application, but they're slightly different. So starting off with loadable. How loadable is an exercise? There's a reason we don't do goblet squats instead of hack squats, because hack squats are far more loadable, not just because they're more stable, which is our next point, but because it's very difficult to hold a 100-kilo dumbbell. It's very easy to stand in a hack squat, however, and put 200 kilos on the hack squat. So is the exercise loadable? Now, we always have to consider the long term as well, because if you're strong and you have to change an exercise after 5 or 6 weeks, that's going to be a problem. Because if we're constantly changing things, which we'll touch on later in exercise rotation, we're going to have issues. So when we're picking things as coaches or for ourselves, ask yourself, how long can I add load to this for? Am I almost maxing out the leg extension? Can I gym pin it? Am I almost maxing out the leg press? Does this machine just feel worse as it gets heavier? Some machines are a little unstable or rusty, or they don't move very well when they're very heavy. So how loadable is it now? But also, how long can I progress it for? We always want to consider sustainability when it comes to any coaching decision. The next one is stability, and this is kind of the same as loadability. They're almost one-to-one. But for example, you might be able to load a Bulgarian split squat for a year. It's loadable. There's enough dumbbells in your gym. The issue is stability, and that's how this is different from point 1. Stability might be the problem with a Bulgarian split squat, especially if you're stronger. And so we always have to consider stability. Things exist on a spectrum. Just because an exercise is unstable does not mean it's bad necessarily, but considering that most exercises have more stable variations, joint angles are the same, resistance profile is the same, the more stable version of this same exercise is going to be better. If we have more stability, we have less co-contraction, less coordination demand, we're automatically going to have higher muscle activation, because that's just how perception of effort works. And that's one of the things we cover in the Hypertrophy Academy education programs. One of many things, of course. So stability is not the same as loadability, and I don't think a little bit of instability is the end of the world, but we can very easily do things, make certain decisions that will make stability far better. And in the long term, as annoying as it is, stability matters. How stable something is matters. There is a direct link with science, right? We go stability, coordination, co-contraction, reduction in activation. Reduction in activation means less muscle fibers are active, and then less muscle fibers means lower motor unit recruitment. And so we can just trace backwards when we understand these principles. The next one is practical. This is a bit of a common sense one, especially if you work with Gen Pop. Your 5 p.m. soccer mum client probably doesn't want to drag a bench over for her single arm lat pull downs. And so maybe you do a slightly worse machine variation, for example, but it's more practical. We don't need to spend much time on this. Some people will want to set up annoying exercises. Some people won't. As a coach, You should know who these people are. You should identify it. Don't piss off your clients with stupid, annoying exercises that they hate setting up. If someone says, hey, this one's kind of annoying to set up, I might say, just do it. I'm a bit of a hard ass. I work with more high performers. I just am like not as lenient with those people. With my more gen pop clients, yeah, let's swap it to something else. I understand that's really annoying. Let's swap. And so that obviously depends on the client, right? Don't need to spend much more time on that one. Or the next point, which is enjoyable. Again, don't need to tell people why enjoyment matters a lot. This is one of the reasons that we would change an exercise. One of our 3 reasons. And so, of course, when we're looking at exercise selection, we have to ask ourselves, is this enjoyable? A lot of people don't like doing silly exercises that they have seen on TikTok. Like, some people love that stuff, some people don't. And so what is enjoyable to someone will directly impact their adherence, their consistency, their effort. And we know for sure that motivation affects mode unit recruitment. So again, there is a direct scientific link between these 2 things. We should encourage our clients to do good exercises that they're not enjoying. Like, I'm not taking leg extensions out of someone's program ever, unless we're in pain and they can just suck it up and do it. But I would be willing to swap a lat pull down for a row variation. I would be willing to swap a bicep curl for a preacher curl, like a dumbbell curl for a preacher curl. So there's little things where it doesn't really matter. Other times it does matter. For example, if I'm working with a chick and she wants to grow her glutes, we are doing hip thrust. It's not a question. We're doing it. So enjoyment, very, very important, but how much of a hard ass you are, obviously totally depends. And the last one is, has an ideal resistance profile. So is this exercise hardest where the muscle I'm trying to work is doing a really good job? And that will depend on the internal moment arms, the length tension relationship, of course, the joint angles, and what muscle we're training, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into that in this video. If you want to learn more about that, that is part of our paid education. But that is how I look at exercise selection. That's our criteria. Loadable, stable, practical, enjoyable, and has a good resistance profile. Of course, that's a general overview. Specific exercises need specific things. This applies to everything, right? We're not looking at just tricep pushdowns. This is every exercise that we pick. Now, moving on, we have exercise execution. So it's very important we pick good exercises, but how we do them is arguably, or not even arguably, how we do them is definitely more important than what we do. Because you can pick a great exercise and you can fuck it up. You can pick a shit exercise and do it really, really well, and I would guarantee you'll get better results. So it's very important that we pick good exercises. This will depend on our understanding of anatomy, our time in the gym, because just spending more time in the gym will help you understand that some exercises just don't work well when you're strong, for example. And even as a coach, sometimes it's hard to articulate why something just won't work. But if you've been around long enough, you just have a good sense, call it a spidey tingle, if you will. And sometimes you just know and you can't quite put a finger on why something's not going to work or won't be good. And the person tries it and it's not, and you go, well, I told you. So sometimes you can just tell. Anyway, how we do things is super important. If we lift with accuracy, we will have far better results than if we do not lift with accuracy. So what makes accuracy? We have 5 topics. We have range of motion, we have tempo, we have controlling the change of direction, we have intensity, and we have joints involved. So we want to standardize the range of motion. Not only do we want to understand what the range of motion is that we're trying to use based on the goal, the muscle, the length tension, internal moment arms, resistance profile, everything, but we want to standardize it. Every rep should look the same. Every set should look the same. And week to week, it should look the same. If we decrease the range of motion, we might use a different group of muscle fibers. Well, not definitely, but we might change the external moment arm, but we will certainly make it easier. We need to make sure that we're not reducing torque at a joint that we're trying to use in order to add more reps, because once we decrease torque at a joint, activation drops. So if I change the range of motion and there's less of a moment arm and I do 4 extra reps, I've just made it easier. Activation has decreased because effort has decreased because there's a decrease in torque, and then I've done more reps. So no point, right? We need to standardize things. Now the next one is a standardized tempo. I don't need to put a number on it. when you see good control, you know it. Usually people get worse range of motion and worse tempo as the set goes on. We do not want either of those things. If we have poor control, we might use different muscle fibers. We might have multiple joint actions happening that we don't want to happen. We might also use poor control in the change of direction, which is point 3, controlling the change of direction. If we bomb into the hole and we rely on the stretch reflex, or we bomb into the hole and now range of motion has changed, or we lose position, we are going to be in trouble. Tendons like slow loads. They do not like big drops into positions and fast loading, especially when it's very, very heavy. And it's also very, very hard to stay coordinated and stay in position if we're moving too quickly. So we want to standardize range of motion. We want to standardize tempo. And a standardized tempo allows us to have very good control in the change of direction, which is good for joint health. It's also good for gains. So very, very easy to understand why that would be super, super important. The next one is what joints are involved compared to what joints I want to be involved. So if I'm training the triceps, I want elbow extension. Maybe I want a little bit of shoulder extension as well, because the long head does a little bit of that. Cool. What I don't want to see is shoulder flexion, the arm coming forward. And I don't want to see shoulder elevation. So when you see those single arm pushdowns where the person is like doing the elbow extension, but their shoulder's going everywhere, that sucks. Probably puts a lot of stress through the front in the AC, but it's just bad for hypertrophy as well because of anatomy and how anatomy and biomechanics work. So what are the joint actions I'm trying to see? What am I actually seeing? I'm trying to see protraction on a T-bar row, but I'm actually seeing protraction and thoracic flexion. Cut out the thoracic flexion, just keep the scapular protraction in. So very simple checklist in our brain. What joint actions am I trying to see? Are there extra? Yes. Are the extra ones needed to facilitate the main joint action? No. Get rid of them. If yes, you can keep them in. So for example, I'm trying to see humeral abduction in a lateral raise. What I also need to see is scapular upward rotation because those movements are coupled. So a second joint action is necessary to facilitate the first joint action so I don't pin my shoulders back and down during a lateral raise because that's dumb, right? So I need to see a second joint action. And so in that case, I'm okay with 2 joint actions happening, even though technically you're not training upward rotation with the middle delt. It needs to happen for the arm to move properly. And so sometimes an extra joint action is okay or necessary. Most of the time though, it's not. And the last one, of course, is intensity. This one's obvious. We need to train hard. And there's ways to spot this. If you can see someone's being very intentional with their breathing, you know they're not trying hard because that is a subconscious activity. If I can see someone timing their breathing and they're not like doing SBD or something, I know they're not trying. It should be completely subconscious. Maybe, yes, bracing is a factor, etc. But if you can see someone's like timing their exhale or whatever, they're probably not trying that hard. Obviously, the big one is reps slowing down, increase in mechanical tension, intramuscular force, growth stimulus, whatever. Reps slowing down is important. That's the obvious one though. You guys all know that. We can also look for things like their facial expressions, their breathing patterns, obviously. How it looks. This is one of the ones that I can't quite put my finger on how to articulate. But as a coach, sometimes I can just see it's not hard. I can't say why because the reps did slow down. Everything looks in check. And I say, hey, I think you slowed that down on purpose. And they go, yeah, I think I did. And they come back next week and they add 4 reps. And we go, oh, we definitely slowed that down on purpose. So sometimes, again, can't quite articulate. It might just be the way the machine is moving. You just know it shouldn't be moving that way. It sort of looks a little too smooth. Maybe, yes, the reps slowed down, but they were pretending. And you can tell just because you'd expect a little more vibration or shake through a joint or something like that. Sometimes you can just spot when someone's training really hard and you can spot when they're not. And that just takes time as an experienced coach. And maybe with more time, I'll be able to articulate it better. But I'm yet to hear of a perfect way of saying it. And so I don't want to try. I'm just getting it out. And that is our 5th checklist box, whatever, for exercise execution. So when we're picking exercises, we want them to be loadable, stable, practical, enjoyable, and have a good resistance profile. When we're doing them, we want to have a consistent range of motion, a consistent tempo. We want to have a controlled change of direction. We obviously want to train hard, and we want to assess which joints are involved compared to which joints I want to have involved. And our last topic for this video is exercise rotation. Now our last topic is exercise rotation. When do we change exercises? We know we don't want to change exercises often because we will apply a different stimulus to different muscle fibers. We will increase our coordination and decrease our gains. It's terrible practice. We don't want to swap exercises unless we have to. And at Hypertrophy Academy, Alan and I believe there are only 3 reasons to change an exercise. We have pain, progress, and preference. Pain, progress, preference. If we have pain, consult a professional. Now, Alan and I are both rehab professionals, so we do this for our clients, of course. When you're changing for the sake of pain, maybe try dropping volume first, intensity first, maybe change the rep range, the range of motion, whatever, just change something, give it some time. If it doesn't get better and you just really don't know how to work around injuries, refer out. As a coach, sometimes we're just not capable of fixing pain. That's okay. It's not your main gig. Refer out. We don't refer out Hypertrophy Academy because we don't need to, because we do that. Now, when we change exercises for the sake of pain, make sure it's different enough. Don't change it to something that's exactly the same and causes the same amount of pain, obviously. Different enough, still training the same muscle group, region, maybe, but change it enough. If you have to change it a lot, so be it. That's not optimal, but neither is pain, right? Progress. How quickly we start worrying about things will depend on a lifter's situation and their experience. If I have a new lifter and it's a new exercise and they're kind of new to the gym and it's not progressing, I'll be very worried. But generally, after 3 weeks, if we're not seeing progress, maybe we consider changing something. Maybe you leave that till the end of the training block and you just ride it out. You ride that wave, you just let it stall for a few weeks and then swap it out at the end of the training block because it's simply easier to organize changes into the end or the start of a training block rather than halfway through. You could increase a set, you could decrease a set, you could change something up in terms of warm-ups, maybe you change the exercise order, whatever. There's plenty of programming strategies to fix stalled exercises. That's not the point of this video. If it's stalled for a period of time that you think is unacceptable, get rid of it. And the last one, of course, is preference. If we're not enjoying things, we're not going to train hard. This is very much the same as enjoyability when it comes to exercise selection. If it's a good exercise, educate your client. Hey man, this is great for this reason. I don't want to change it for this reason. Can we please keep it in? If no, change it. When you change it for the sake of progress or enjoyment, so progress or preference, try to change it to something that's extremely similar so you're certain that you're using the same group of muscle fibers or as similar of a group of muscle fibers as you can. Because if we change to something that's too different, we will train different muscle fibers. The ones we were training will start to atrophy. So we want to make sure it's very, very similar. So we touched on exercise selection. What exercises are we picking? We touched on exercise execution. How are we doing them? And exercise rotation. When are we swapping them? Hopefully that's helpful. If you guys enjoy this content, let me know. We have shitloads of this content in our Hypertrophy Academy, level 1, level 2 education courses for coaches, up and coming coaches, and just anyone who wants to learn about hypertrophy. Maybe you want to coach with us. Alan has spots available, but I'm full. Now, if you're thinking, who's Alan? He's the other coach at Hypertrophy Academy, and he's my coach and has been for years. He's so good and so smart. I hired him and brought him on the team, and now he coaches alongside me. So if you want to work with us, you can't work with me right now, but Alan has spots open. Apply, and we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below.